And joining us now is Christopher Bedford, senior editor at The Federalist. Chris, welcome back. Now, we're going to begin with your take on this Christmas parade tragedy in Wisconsin. It includes, how do you think the media has been covering the event out there?
Well, they've shown a lot more hesitancy to try and figure out exactly what was going on, which maybe they ought to, than, for example, they showed for Kyle Rittenhouse, who they immediately called a white supremacist and a domestic terrorist. Everyone's saying, well, hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes and let's figure this out. And I applaud them for that. I wish they would do that more across the board. I'd also like to see more attention, significantly more than has been given, to the district attorney of Milwaukee, John Chisholm. This is one of the people who was backed by George Soros in his campaign. He's not an American citizen, but in his campaign to give funds to different district attorneys that were willing to get rid of bail and abolish the systems that we have for keeping dangerous and psychotic criminals off the streets and in prison. This person was just released a few days or weeks prior to running his vehicle into this Christmas parade, killing people, injuring many more people, attacking Christmas in this way, released on a $1,000 cash bail. Now, the district attorney's office has since said, well, we're going to review this because this is not in our principles. This should not have happened. Well, that's not true at all. This district attorney, John Chisholm, said that he wants to get rid of bail and has applauded, for example, the DA of San Francisco for being able to do that. When you do that, it has consequences. When you let criminals out in the street, it has consequences. On $500 or $1,000 cash bail, it says that our cities and our states and our counties don't actually put too much worry about crime on there and put people's safety secondary to that. And unfortunately, sometimes we see this in private and homes, in crimes and domestic assaults, and now we're seeing it play out in this awful, awful attack.
Well, this is an awful attack out there. And switching gears now slightly, you spent some time on social media discussing the Freedom for All Act. It's supported by nearly 24 Republicans up on Capitol Hill, and they say that it's an attempt to reach out to those who identify as same-sex attracted. Why do you say that this bill is concerning to the faithful and those who support religious freedom?
Well, this is something that Republicans have gotten together in an attempt to push back against some of what the Democrats are trying to push on a more radical agenda that defines what you associate your body as or what gender you claim to be as part of the Civil Rights Act, makes it protected. And that would impact hospitals, doctors, nurses, those who don't want to do these surgeries, homeless shelters, women who are now being housed with mentally ill men. It'll impact schools at a time when it's finally being exposed in Virginia and Tennessee and other places, actual attacks on children by people who claim to be of the other gender, attacking them in locker rooms or in their bathrooms. Republicans who are pushing this say that they're trying to do a compromise bill, even though no Democrats have signed on to it. So this compromise would make it so that it's codified now, these gender differences or these preferred pronouns, into American legislation. That would make it so that bakers or schools can be attacked. The only people that it actually defends are some very narrowly defined religious groups, like a religious charity, for example, religious schools or actual churches. But this is an absolute surrender that no one on the right is actually wanting. We're starting to see a pushback against this and a push for God's idea, for the Christian idea of creation and truth. We're seeing that in Virginia and elections across the country. These Republicans aren't just naive, they're stupid, because we've seen for the last 10 years over and over again that the radical gay lobbies that want to push these things aren't interested in compromise, aren't interested in just some kind of fairness or inclusion. They're actually targeting Christians, and this will open up the flank to allow private individuals and private businesses to be at the mercy of these advocates.
Now, Christopher, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops met last week in Baltimore, and they overwhelmingly approved the document on the importance of the Eucharist. Now, what do you think of this document, and did it go far enough?
I certainly would have liked to see it go further, but it was good to see it go anywhere at all. There were some worries among the Catholic, more Orthodox Catholic community that Rome was going to try and torpedo this entire effort and try to just neuter it completely. We didn't see that. There were some important lines put in there by the American bishops that are actually pushing to protect life, even from politicians, even from public figures who are breaking this rule. Now, this document will allow the local priests and local bishops to be able to execute Canon Law 915 and actually be able to decide on their own whether or not they're going to give access to communion to those who are publicly committing grave sin against the Catholic Church. That means that in the next couple months, I would be expecting some news to come out as more and more cardinals and bishops and priests stand up to this culture of death and push back against politicians, no matter how powerful they are.
We will wait and see. Okay, Christopher Bedford, senior editor at The Federalist, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.